Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Who is the better duo? Mego.
I went with Tatum Brown. And I think it's a little bit more about the comparison between Jaylen Brown and Kyrie Irving. I would 100 out of 100 times take Jaylen Brown over Kyrie Irving at this point. But when I compare these two duos, I also look at both ends of the court. And I think that the defenders that Tatum and Brown are just completely blow the other side out of the water. Now, Luka's playmaking is unparalleled for anybody who's in the finals now. It just is. Tatum is a different kind of guy. He's an all-around player. Sometimes I think he doesn't get fully recognized for what a great player he is because he doesn't have that just one thing that he does. He's one of those people. He's a Swiss Army knife where he does a lot of things at an 8.5 to a 9. Mm-hmm. And Luka's a guy who just has that step-back jumper, and it's a dagger 10 most of the time. And so I look at it and I go, yeah, between Luka and Tatum, like I edge Luka a little more just because the playmaking and his clutch abilities are so incredible. But looking at them as a duo, I think Brown is way more outstanding than Irving, even the way that Kyrie's performed through this playoffs run and through this year, which is reminiscent of who he was 5 or 6 years ago.
Which of the two duos, this is sort of a side question.
Okay.
Which of the two duos do you think plays better together? Off each other, I mean. You know, like which one of those duos would you say is better at that? Dallas. Don't look at him. Don't look at him, Mego.
I just talked for like a minute. I'm not used to being able to do that.
I know. It's very different. It's very different when I'm sitting here.
So,
I feel like I'm at an awkward family dinner right now.
It's more like an intervention.
Wait till your father gets
like
home.
Exactly.
Wow. So you say Dallas. What do you say?
I actually say Dallas too.
Okay.
But
baby.
I think it has more to do with what we've talked about with Jaylen and Jayson a lot. And I know people are sick of this kind of topic of the two wings. Can they play together? Blah, blah, blah. To me, it has more to do with, I think that Jaylen and Jayson are playing off each other more recently than they have in past runs. But at the same time, that is like a stacked 5 starting lineup. Whereas on the other side, the onus is so much for playmaking on Luka and Kyrie. And they have a 2-man game that is a real 2-man game. I don't think you look at the Celtics and you go, Jaylen and Jayson have a 2-man game. They don't most of the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes, as you said, there was that one point in their last elimination game where they did, in game 4, where it's like they swung it back and forth once and finished in a...
Oh, yeah, when Brown came onto the basket and he got him down there.
Yeah, and you're like,
and I was like, hey, wow, look at that.
Our boys. Look at
them
these
sharing
guys.
the ball. How about that? What a nice
thing.
But
it's more so like they run the pick and roll with, either Porzingis when he's out there or through Derek White. And that's not saying that, like, they can't play together. It's just not the way that their offense usually operates.
Okay, so you would take Brown and Tatum as the superior duo. Fitzy, how about you?
Offensively speaking, I would take Dallas. I would take Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. Luka has been my favorite player that doesn't wear a Celtics uniform for years. I love everything about his shot. I love everything about his fearlessness. I love everything about the fact that it doesn't look like he's lifted a weight in his life.
We're talking about Luka Doncic?
Yeah, I love everything. I love the fact that he talks about drinking recovery beers at the end of games.
You think his game is like a beautiful game.
Did you see Mike Finley snatch his beer away,
Taking
by the way?
beer out of his hand.
Fitzy, what kind of beer was it?
It was just only like a Miller Lite.
Okay, I was zooming in.
Looked like a blue can to me.
It had a black
Bud Light.
can.
Okay.
No, it had a black can with a gold star on it. I was trying to zoom in for our podcast.
That sounds like Sapporo's.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, is it like a Foster's?
No, not enough. Foster's? No, that was
Foster's
maybe it was
like
something
big
local.
honking beers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It was and
not
then
a single person in Australia drinks it.
You couldn't tell if it was like a normal size can or not because his
Doubt
hands
it was an
are
IPA.
so big.
Luka's like a regular beer drinking type of guy.
Okay.
But anyway, I love.
Well, not when Michael Finley's around. He's not. Yeah.
I could see. Yeah. Side note to that. That was a very interesting decision. Like, do you really think you're going to keep a beer? If Luka wants the beer, he's going to go get it later on.
Right.
What sort of perceived optics are there for the Dallas Mavericks organization that Luka they all spray beer on each other? You saw the video of Al grabbing like 4 of those aluminum Bud missiles and spraying
was giving beers out.
Al's kid was hammered. There's nothing wrong with that. My kids get my beers. It's fine. Anyway, Luka's game, spectacular. Kyrie Irving right now in the right headspace, so dangerous, so smooth. Nobody is better with the ball in their hands. No one handles it better than Kyrie does. Here's the thing. You do have to play both ways, and you're not going to be able to just get into a shooting contest, and you can't get into a score-off with the Celtics because they do play such better defense. They play a two-way game. And the one thing that you just said about as far as Tatum and Brown go, it's weird that the two of them averaged a combined like 17 rebounds, 11 assists, 4 steals, 60 points combined again against Indiana. And, of course, Tatum with his terrible series of 30 points, 10.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists per game. They don't really still complement each other. Like, you don't see the two of them assisting, feeding, or working off each other. It's just a matter of who got to that one or who made that play better, Jaylen and Jayson. That all being said, because of the defensive nature of their play, I'm going to take the Boston guys. But it's not a landslide.
I agree with what you just said at the end, but I got to go the other way. Just because you look at what Luka Doncic is doing in these playoffs, he leads in like every statistical category all throughout the playoffs. And what you guys both sort of admitted to, even though you're still going with the Celtics, is something that I guess I just value a little more, and that is the ability for the two main studs on the team to work off each other and to sort of set each other up and do those types of things. The thing is, Dallas needs to do that. Dallas, for them to function, have to be able to let those two guys work together and sort of have the relationship that they have and that they've fostered, which I'll be honest with you.
Australian for beer.
Exactly. I never thought Kyrie Irving could do that. I didn't think we'd ever see it. When it didn't work out with him and Kevin Durant, I figured that was it. Kyrie, he can't play with anyone. He couldn't play with LeBron. He couldn't play with the Celtics.
It looked last year like he couldn't play with Luka.
It didn't seem like he could play with Luka, and now all of a sudden these two are, ebony and ivory here, and it's going really well, and they're rocketing all the way to the finals. And I'm so surprised to see it. And that, I think, is part of the reason why I'm going with Dallas. It's just I expected the Celtics to look this way. I expected them to be one of the best teams in the league. We all expected them to go to the finals. Vegas expected them to go to the finals. That all was sort of set in stone. And these are the two pillars of the team, obviously, and they both had very good years. Dallas went through a much harder gauntlet to get there, and they did it off the strength of those two guys. So I guess, for me, they're the better duo. The Celtics are the better team. And that's what the Celtics have to avoid in this series. I think that's the only way the Mavericks can win. The only way the Mavericks can beat them is if they make it 2-on-2. Because other than that, like the rest of that team, there's some underrated aspects to the Mavericks team, and we'll get into that and discuss that later on in the program. But roster per roster, it's not really that close, I don't think.
I couldn't agree more that there are underrated aspects and elements to Dallas's game right now, coached by yet another enemy of the state in Jayson Kidd. However, you will not be seeing an NBA fight. It's not going to be like, remember Jason Terry was a massive thorn in the side of the Miami Heat,
yes,
draining big three after big three. It wasn't just all Dirk in that finals in 2011. Whereas in this one, it's either going to be Luka and Kyrie in complement of each other, took you down, and it was too much. And the Celtics, just as a team, once again, overall weren't ready or able to do it. However, there are a couple members of the Celtics who could easily be reaching for the NBA Finals MVP trophy, not named Jaylen Brown or Jayson Tatum.
So